About 20 years ago now, I dated an Inuit girl who was living in Washington, D.C. I had just graduated college with a bachelor's in anthropology, so I was absolutely fascinated with her stories of her childhood in Alaska. Anyway, one night over drinks, the conversation moves to skinwalkers. I had never heard of them, so of course I wanted to know more. I never thought of her as a superstitious person, but this topic was clearly unsettling to her. Basically, she was of the mind that she wasn't sure if she believed in them, but they played such a prominent role in her cultural upbringing and were so terrifying that, real or not, it was better to not dig too far into them. A few days later, we were in the DuPont Circle, or the DC, when the topic pops into my head again. We were on our way to get lunch, and I brought it up. She got pretty mad and said that it was stupid to talk about them, and when there were so many people around, because there could be one nearby. I laughed and played it off, when all of a sudden, this guy across the street, facing away from me, stopped and stared directly at me. I felt terror to my core, and I can't explain it, but my urge to get away was overwhelming. There was no possible way for him to have heard me, but his gaze did not waver. He was absolutely looking at me. Even as I'm writing this, I'm getting chills. I genuinely am pretty skeptical and try to find a logical explanation to things, but whatever that was scares me to this day. I'm Rick Martinez, a truck driver, coming back up from Utah, going into Nevada. I pulled over to update my logs and got up on top of a hill to a rest area. Nothing but desert all around me. No cars, no nothing. As I was writing into my logbook, I felt like somebody was staring at me. So I looked up and saw this old man standing there, all raggedy, with a long beard, just staring at me. So I rolled down my window and asked him, "Are you okay?" And he would not answer. So I repeated, "Are you all right? Do you need help? Do you want some water?" He still would not answer me. So I opened the door and stood on my step and said, "I'm not coming down. You need to come over here." He wouldn't answer. So I told him, "Okay, old man, last chance. If you need help, tell me now." So I got back in my truck, closed the door, put my truck in gear, and started to roll off. He started to walk alongside the truck. I'm thinking I'm going to end up running this guy over, so I just said, "Let me get out of here." As I pick up speed, he starts running alongside of the truck. And I'm thinking, this is freaking crazy. This old guy is out of his mind. I began picking up more speed, getting ready to get back on the highway, and I turned to look to make sure I'm not going to run this old guy over. And he's not there. What I see instead is a coyote running next to me, and that coyote kept up with the truck for at least a couple of blocks, until finally I started pulling away from him. I didn't want to look in the rearview mirror anymore. I just wanted to get away. This was midwinter, so about early January, and my cousin and I were out in the woods playing. Mind you, we were 6 and 7 at the time, and we stumbled upon a carcass. Now, this carcass was of a robin bird, freshly killed, but the way it was killed was unlike anything neither him or I had ever seen before. Up until this point, I had been hunting with my dad every year since I was about 4, and I had seen dead birds and eaten carcasses before. It was torn in two, one half not too far away from the other, and its entrails had been eaten, but not anything else on it like anything conventional. Now we get back to playing, and notice other oddities in the small patch of woods we were in. The hill next to his barn was steep and snow-covered, but every so often there were patches of bird feathers, almost ritualistically plotted all around to mark something, a territorial boundary, I'd presume. But anyway, further down the small trail that led to the road uphill, We seen it. It was a humanoid. Thin, brown, hairless, and soulless. It had deep, dark pools for eyes like craters in its face, and was built so wrong. Its arms were ungodly long and slim to a point where you could see bone. Now at this point, the tough guy in me and my cousin thought we were going to begin to yell and throw our hands as we charged it. It was gone in a matter of seconds, bolting in the tree line, into the road, and gone the other side. After this, my cousin and I ran inside, almost began to cry, questioning on what we had just experienced. The story, however, does not end there. Fast forward to 2016. My cousin is in the living room, and he's watching TV. The dog had to go out for a dump or something, so he let it out and watched her. That's when this thing makes itself known. In the tree line, it leers up and looks dead at him. But when it noticed the rushing dog coming at it, barking like hell, it hunched over and froze. The dog stopped suddenly right in front of it and began to sniff, clearly confused. Soon enough, the dog walked away, crapped, and was let back inside. This thing glanced at my cousin one more time and walked off. It's 2020 now, and my cousin had only one more experience like this since, and that was when he was with his girlfriend. They were ready to get down and dirty with it by his car in a bigger patch of secluded woods by his house when he heard this noise, similar to a bear, but with a more human tone to it. After hearing this, they hauled butt back to his car, and ever since then, he refused to go back. After having an in-depth conversation with him, recollecting all of this information, we agreed to try and hunt a skinwalker, or a wendigo, or something like that. Take my story as you will, but I just want to ask you, what the hell did he see? What the hell stalks the rural woods of New Hampshire to such an extent? Mind you, when I seen this thing, it was about the size of myself, a 7-year-old. When my cousin seen it, he said it was much larger, yet retained the hairless and skinny physique. Should we hunt and try to kill it, or leave it be? Whatever it was intelligent, ritualistic, and cunning. I'm just curious to find out if it was a skinwalker or not, and take my word for it, because I do believe most of these things hunt and stalk the rural areas of the North American wilderness. My cousin once told me about a time he and a friend heard what he honestly thinks was a skinwalker. I believe they may have also had a glimpse on a creature, but I'm not sure. Now, my cousin is a big guy. He's not scared easily, and this time, he was truly scared, which is concerning. Anyway, he and his buddy were camping and went for a bike ride. They heard something in front and heard noises, and then they backed away and heard it run around and get in front of them, or close to it. So they both gunned it, hearing the creature following them. My cousin says the creature sounded like it was made of sticks, and I believe he saw something though. He didn't describe the thing to me. There was another time that him and a different friend heard a large creature walk past them at night. The creature, they say, was massive and made strange noises. They also said they heard birds chirping around it, but it sounded fake. The birds, I mean. The area they were in was basically a massive hill, and it was all downhill, which was basically a 90-degree drop, meaning it had to be massive for them to hear it that close. This was 7 months ago, but I still haven't gotten any answers from anybody, so I'll share it and see what you guys think. So I just got back from my walk. It's about 7 p.m. for me. The sun was setting, and it's already overcast, so it's a bit darker than usual. And for a little background, I live in Phoenix, Arizona. One of those houses, kind of away from the main city. Out right by a mountain preserve, I guess you could say. It's basically connected to it. A very cool area, but very unsettling at night. That's where I go on my walks. About 15 minutes away from the house, right in front of me, I see this strange-looking creature about 10 feet away from me, seem to be floating, completely motionless and hard to make out exactly what it looked like, but it appeared to have glowing red eyes, one snapped horn and another full horn on its head, long black demonic arms with sharp-looking claws, wearing a dark black, raggedy cloak. I looked at it for about 2 whole seconds before it vanished, almost like fog. Then, it appeared again further down my walk, about 5 to 6 minutes later, even further than before, almost like it was watching me from a distance. I was listening to my playlist at the time, and suddenly, a loud, horrible high-pitched blood-curdling scream blasted through my headphones in the middle of the song, and the creature vanished. It was the loudest scream that I've ever heard, but it was probably because it was directly into my ears, but still, it made me drop to my knees. After that, it seemed to vanish. I didn't see it again, but the rest of the way home, I felt a presence, as well as being watched. I've had lots of encounters with other creatures, but this one was probably the most terrifying I've had. I've speculated it being a skinwalker, or even a banshee, but would definitely like to hear other opinions